Why, hello there, friends. How are you? I hope everyone's doing well tonight. I'm doing something a little bit different than what I normally do. I had I had created back in September. Um, I had joined Bible study at church and I was going weekly. And that Bible study is basically um, whatever the sermon was on that previous Sunday. We just kind of looked at the verses that were preached and kind of did a little more deep dive into the meaning of those, and surrounded some discussions, shared ideas. Um, and being so new, I couldn't really contribute a whole lot because I didn't know. I was really just there to learn. So I sat down and I talked to my pastor and I was like, I really want to learn more about the Bible. Um, but where should I start? And he said there's a number of books that new believers should start with, and he recommended that I start with John, the Gospel of John. So I am the type of person that I really like school. I really like learning. It's one of those things that is just a quirk about me. I love doing homework. I love doing research. I love doing writing. I love doing all of that. So, of my own volition, I decided that I was going to use ChatGPT to kind of develop kind of like it's really, really simplistic, basic Bible study that I was just going to kind of go through on my own and do on my own time. And I put it together for the entire book of John, and I put one together for the book of Acts because that was recommended to me as well as the next one. And then there's two other books that I haven't finished yet. So um, eventually I'll get that far. But what I wanted to do tonight was just kind of go through this Bible study that I created, and just kind of discuss. And as a disclaimer, I just want to say that I am not a teacher. I'm not anywhere near capable of teaching anything about the Bible. My goal with this stream was to basically do it together, do it with my audience. If people want to participate and come in and talk about the things that we're talking about, um, great. Um, if I do kind of want to put it out there that if there's something that I'm misunderstanding, or if there's something that a concept that I'm getting wrong, or pronouncing, even something as simple as pronouncing something wrong, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Because as I said, this is something that I'm learning, and I'm sharing what I have learned with my audience and inviting them to come in and talk about it. So I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'm trying to teach, or I'm saying this information that I'm sharing, excuse me, is the end all be all. If I'm wrong, definitely go ahead and correct me. I am open to criticism. I am open to new ideas. And yeah, if I'm getting something wrong, please tell me. I'm happy to look into that and we can discuss it further. Um, the things, the questions that it came up with when I was going through it are really, really basic questions. So if you've been a believer for a while, and this seems kind of simplistic because you've been a Christian for a while or whatever, I apologize. I did want to kind of start it off simple before I get into the more complicated topics. Because I see people like Smokey and like Dave and other Christian YouTubers, that they get really in depth in some of the topics that they talk about when it comes to Christianity. Like, I still right now don't really understand how free grace works. Or and I don't know if that's like once saved, always saved. If that's like, if are they the same thing? I don't know. So I'm not going to jump on a stream and try and insert myself into an intellectual conversation about things that I'm not educated on. So I'm here to learn. I'm here to share what I'm learning, and I'm here to discuss it with people. And that's kind of really my intention. I'm hosting the Bible study, but I am definitely not teaching it. So as long as we're kind of all on the same page about that, then yeah, this is going to be good. So I was doing some research. I have my binder here. Hang on, give me a sec. I got real no place to put my binder, so I'm gonna take this. Okay. Because my intention was to complete my Bible study questions before I did the Bible study, and then just kind of go through the answers that I came up with. And like I said, if I'm wrong or I'm getting it wrong or I'm misinterpreting something, feel free to let me know. I am completely open to that. So we're going to be starting in chapter 1 of John. How I've got this set up is it's going to be one session for every chapter of John. So this session's called John 1, the Word Became Flesh. Now, I'm really glad that I started here because I really did learn some things that I did not understand before. I've read John before. When I was in high school, they gave us these tiny little like handheld pocket-sized New Testaments. And I remember reading the first book or the first couple of books. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. But I never really kind of understood the information that was in it. So I thought, you know what, let's just go ahead and we'll start there. So I pulled up, let me pull it up here on the screen. And we can click. Boy, this Bible study is going to go well, seeing as I'm tripping over my words already. My goodness. All right. Can we see you on the screen? There we go. We're going to make it bigger for everybody. There we go. So I'm just going to quickly read through the first chapter of John. And then I'm going to discuss a couple of things. And yeah, we'll go from there. All right. I did read a couple of chapters of John over on my, I created a channel that was specifically for religion. But I mean, just keeping up with more than one channel can get a little tedious when you've got so much going on in life and other reasons. So I could pull that up, but I'm the type of person that I hate listening to my own voice, so I don't want to go back and listen to myself read it. So I apologize. All right, so the Word became flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and through the world was made through him. Lots of W's here. Oh my goodness. The world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. That to me says baptism. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him. He cried out, saying, "This is the one I spoke about when I said, he who comes after me has surpassed me because he was before me." Out of his fullness, we have all received grace in place of grace already given. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God but the one and only Son, who is himself God. I apologize, I'm reading this terribly. And is in the closest relationship with the Father, has made him known. So John the Baptist denies the Messiah. Now, this was John's testimony when the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely, I am not the Messiah. They asked him, then who are you? Are you Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? He answered, no. Finally, he said, who are you? Give us an answer to take back those who sent us. What do you say about yourself? John replied in the words of Isaiah the prophet, I am the voice of one calling in the wilderness, make straight the way for the Lord. Now the Pharisees who had been sent, questioned him. Why then do you baptize if you are not the Messiah, nor Elijah, nor the prophet? I baptize with water, John replied, but among you stands one you do not know. He is the one who comes after me, the straps of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie. This all happened at Bethany on the other side of the Jordan where John was baptizing. John testifies about Jesus. The next day, John saw Jesus coming toward him and said, look, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. This is the one I meant when I said, a man who comes after me has surpassed me because he was before me. I myself did not know him, but the reason I came baptizing with water was that he might be revealed to Israel. Then John gave this testimony. I saw the Spirit come down from heaven as a dove and remain on him. And I myself did not know him, but the one who sent me to baptize with water told me, the man on whom you see the Spirit come down and remain is the one who will baptize with the Holy Spirit. I have seen and I testify that this is God's chosen one. The next day, John was there again with two of his disciples. When he saw Jesus passing by, he said, look, the Lamb of God. When the two disciples heard him say this, they followed Jesus. Turning around, Jesus saw them following and asked, what do you want? They said, Rabbi, which means teacher, where are you staying? Come, he replied, and you will see. So they went and saw where he was staying, and they spent the day with him. It was about 4 p.m. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the two who heard that John had said and who had followed Jesus. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon and tell him, we have found the Messiah, that is the Christ, and brought him to Jesus. And he brought him to Jesus. Oh my goodness. Jesus looked at him and said, you are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas, which when translated is Peter. And Jesus calls Philip and Nathanael. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, follow me. Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael and told him, we have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph. Nazareth, can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. Come and see, said Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said of him, here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. How do you know me? Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, I saw you when you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you. Then Nathanael declared, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Jesus said, you believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that. He then added, very truly I tell you, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. And that is chapter 1. All right, so there's a couple of interesting little things that I wanted to kind of talk about before we dive into the actual Bible study questions. Because I am a history lover. I love anything that has to do with archaeology and archaeology. I mean, geez, you'd think I've been drinking or something. And history, it's all really, really interesting to me. So I decided to do a little research on some of the historical background of John chapter 1 to see what I could find. So here's just a little bit of the information that I found. Again, if I've got something wrong, please feel free to let me know. I'm not saying that this is all correct information. It's as correct as I believe it is because this is what I found when I was doing my research. So who wrote John? John's gospel is traditionally attributed to John the Apostle, the son of Zebedee, one of Jesus's closest followers. Early church tradition also ties it to the Johannine community, meaning John may have dictated or taught, and his students' disciples helped record and preserve it. Most scholars place it around 85 to 95 AD for when it was written, making it one of the later New Testament writings. By this time, Christianity was spreading. Jewish Christians were being pushed out of the synagogues, and the early church was wrestling with theological clarity, especially about who Jesus really is. So I guess the very first sentence, in the beginning was the word. There's a lot of historical meaning with that. John deliberately echoes Genesis 1 in the beginning. Everything you believed about creation, Jesus was there. Jesus is God. It's for the Greek audience. Greek thinkers use the term logos or logo. I think it's logos, the word to describe the rational force ordering the universe. John flips that and says, the Logos isn't an idea, it's a person, and he walked among us. This made the gospel incredibly accessible to both Jewish and Greek listeners. And what's happening historically in this chapter? Jerusalem had been destroyed by Rome in 70 AD. Christians were spreading across the Roman Empire. Tension between Jews and emerging Christian believers was high. And there were many false teachings that were forming, like early Gnosticism. John's gospel responds to this by emphasizing Jesus's divinity, Jesus as the eternal Son, the physical incarnation, so the word becomes flesh, and light versus dark themes for spiritual clarity. Historically, John the Baptist was a massive figure, so big that some people thought he might be the Messiah. John's gospel sets the record straight that he was not the light, only the witness to the light. And it was important for early believers who needed theological grounding. So some of the key historical themes of this chapter is that it's Jesus as the creator. So John claims Jesus existed before time and everything was made through him. This would have been earth-shaking in the first century. The word became flesh. This directly challenged Greek philosophy, which saw matter as lesser, Gnostic beliefs, which denied Jesus's physical reality. Okay. It was apparently, it says here, I wrote down, and I don't know why this phrase stuck out to me, but it says this verse alone is a sledgehammer to early heresies. The Logos taking human form. In the ancient world, gods didn't become flesh. John boldly says God stepped fully into humanity. So I guess that's what sets Christianity apart. The oldest surviving piece of the New Entire Testament is Papyrus P52, also known as Ryland's Fragment. It contains part of John 18, dated around 125 AD, meaning John's Gospel must have been written much earlier than that. And this is why scholars trust that John is one of the most historically reliable ancient writings we have. So in my research and finding out some of the history of this, I had some images that I've got 4 of them that we're going to pull up and take a look at. So this is the first one. There we go. So this is the ancient Gospel of John manuscript. So this represents early handwritten copies of the Gospel of John, which were copied on papyrus sheets by early Christian scribes. These manuscripts show how the gospel was preserved and passed down through the centuries, giving us confidence in its historical reliability. And then this one is this is the Papyrus P52. So this is the oldest fragment of the New Testament. It's also called Ryland's Fragment. It is the oldest known surviving piece of the New Testament, dated around 125 AD. It contains a portion of John 18. Its early date confirms that the Gospel of John was written much earlier, supporting the traditional dating of 85 to 95 AD and strengthening trust in the text's authenticity. Right. And then this Can you go up there? Can you cooperate with me? There we go. This is a first century Judea map. So this map shows the region where Jesus lived and where much of the Gospel's events took place: Galilee, Samaria, and Judea. Understanding this geography helps visualize John's narrative and appreciate the cultural and political tensions of the time, including Roman occupation and Jewish religious life. So I can't make it any bigger. It's too tiny, but I have an NLT study Bible. So this particular map I've seen several times in my Bible when we're reading it at church. So this is interesting. And then this particular picture, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this. This is the ancient city of Ephesus. Ephesus was a major cultural and religious center in the Roman Empire and is traditionally believed to be where the Apostle John lived later in life. Many scholars think John wrote or finalized his gospel while teaching in Ephesus, using it as a base for guiding the early Christian community. So, yeah, those were just a couple of tidbits of interesting historical information that I found. And then I wanted to share before we kind of get into what I have written here for my questions. All right. Whoops. I really need to start streaming at my desk where I have more room. All right. So, session 1, John 1, the Word become flesh. So, just a quick summary of the chapter. John introduces Jesus as the eternal Word, the true light, and the one who became flesh to bring grace and truth. So these questions are more of reflection questions, things to think about when you were reading through John. So I have some notes here that I wrote about what I interpreted as this. So again, as I said at the beginning of the video, if I'm getting any of these concepts wrong, please leave a comment, let me know, and feel free to correct me. Hi, good Whitney. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Okay. So again, these are really, really basic questions. So I apologize for those of you that are listening that have been Christian for a long time. They may seem like they're really, really simplistic. But just to give you a little background on me, if you're not aware, I wasn't raised with any religion. I wasn't raised. I didn't read the Bible. I mean, I read snippets here and there as I, grew older, but I've never read the Bible in its entirety. I was never exposed to church or God or Jesus or any of that. So what I'm trying to study is just kind of grasp the big basic concepts. So things that you would have learned if you've been in the church your entire life. These would be things that you would just know. And I unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to do that. So this is why in my own free time, I'm doing this kind of easy Bible study so that I can really understand what I'm reading and what I'm learning. And for me personally, I'm the type of learner that if I have a set of questions and I'm doing research and I'm writing, I absorb that information much better. So doing a Bible study this way just really works for me and for what I want to learn. So the first question is, what do verses 1 through 3 teach you about who Jesus is? So I'm just going to go back to the first couple of verses so that we can reread it again and kind of reflect on that. So verses 1 through 3. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. So I have read these few verses quite a few times, and I never really understood. I guess I missed it, because I always thought when someone said, "Oh, it's the Word of God," the Word, I thought it meant the Bible and that God communicated his will through the Bible. But I was very wrong in that idea. The Word is actually Jesus, and I didn't know that until I did my research on it. So I'm going to read through some of these notes that I wrote down. So, in the beginning means the word existed before anything else. So it is eternal and it's not created. So my former thought of it being the Bible, that doesn't make sense because the Bible didn't exist before the world did, because the Bible was written on paper and it was turned into a book. And those are all material things that were created when the world was already here, because those resources would have been used to create it. So it existing before the world is literally impossible. But the word means God's expression, wisdom, and creative power. So in Christian theology, the word refers to Jesus Christ in his divine pre-human existence. So that also kind of clarified things for me, because the Trinity has always been a concept that I didn't really understand. It's still a little complicated for me. I don't think I have a full grasp of it quite yet, but this is kind of helping break it down for me, I think. So knowing that Jesus existed before the world kind of reiterates the fact that he's separate from God, but also part of God, or is God. So that kind of clarified that a little for me. The word was with God. So this distinguishes the word as not the same person as God the Father. But the word is also not a lesser being. The word is God in essence. So again, like it's saying here, well, from what I'm understanding, is that he's not the same as God the Father, but he is a part of them, an extension of him, his essence. The word was God asserts that the words it asserts the word's full divine nature. So these first couple of verses are just kind of reiterating the fact that the word is a being, and it existed eternally. It exists eternally, just as God does. So it kind of explains that a little bit for me, anyway. So Jesus, the word, is eternal, divine, and in an intimate relationship with the Father, which, as we read through the whole chapter, it did say that. What verse was it here? Yeah, okay, so verse 18. No one has ever seen God but the one and only Son, who is himself God, and is in the closest relationship with the Father, has made him known. So that says to me that he is the closest to God. He's the only one that's seen God, and we can't have as close a relationship to God as Jesus does, which makes more sense when you think about the only way to God is through Jesus. Okay, so let's go back into my notes here. So the word existed before creation. God uses the word he to make clear that the word is a person, not an abstract concept. This reinforces both personhood and eternity. I apologize. My asthma's acting up, so I'm coughing a lot. All things were made through him. So the word is Jesus is an agent of creation, which again puts him up there again with God. Everything that exists came into being through him. And I found that really interesting, that everything exists came into being through him, through Jesus. And the way for us to get back to God can only be through Jesus. So it's like it comes full circle there, and it kind of reiterates the importance of Jesus in the entire Bible story, really. Without him, nothing was made. So Jesus is not a created being. All created things came through him. He is the source of life and existence. And he's also the source of eternal life. Jesus is internal, so he existed before creation. Jesus is also God. Jesus is distinct from the Father, but united in divine nature. And Jesus is the creator. Everything came into being through him. So I see a lot of like reoccurring themes here when it comes to what Jesus is exactly. John's goal is to show the readers that the story of Jesus doesn't start in Bethlehem, it starts before time because he is the eternal word of God. And that was kind of eye-opening for me to read because I didn't realize that Jesus existed. But again, I think that came with the complication of me not really understanding the Trinity. Um, but to know that Jesus has kind of always been there, and it's almost like Jesus was waiting, or God was waiting to come into the world. All right, so that was the first question. The second question is, how does it impact you to know the word became flesh and dwelt among us? So this kind of reflection question is more of like a personal question about how you interpret the chapter and what it means to you. Um, the particular phrase, the word became flesh and dwelt among us. Now, right off the hop, after doing the first question, the word became flesh. So obviously, I understand now that that means that Jesus became flesh and dwelt and lived among us. And we'll deep dive into discussing more. Yeah, no, we're not having you here. I'm sorry. Just no. I'm sorry. So for people that are new on my channel, there's a particular person that is not welcome here and will not ever be welcome here. I know that Jesus teaches us forgiveness, so that is something that I am going to struggle with. But you can forgive people and you can have them out of your life. And that is a door that unfortunately is permanently closed. I appreciate you coming in here and dropping off a comment, but you're not welcome here. I'm sorry. Just no, I can't have that. Anyway, okay, so let's get back to this. So, yes, so the question was, how does it impact you to know that the word became flesh and dwelt among us? Jesus is the word, God's ultimate communication. Or if so I've wrote this down kind of wrong, but so if Jesus is the word, and this means that God's ultimate communication, then that also means that God is no longer distant or vague, because we can understand God better through knowing Jesus. You don't have to guess what God is like, because Jesus and God are the same. God has spoken in a person, not just in words. So God's message is coming through a person, right? Someone who has direct communication with God the Father. So we can trust that, right? If you want to know God's character, then look at Jesus. What Jesus loves, God also loves. What he hates, God also hates. How he treats people, God treats people. And this brings clarity, confidence, and trust, which is, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself in my notes. So in John 1:14, the word became flesh and lived among us. So this means that God is not waiting for you to climb up to him. God is the one who steps towards you. And I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? Because God could just sit up there and could have just waited, right? And just left us to our own devices. But he didn't do that. He sent us Jesus. And he sent Jesus in particular so that way he could take on the burden of our sin, and we have a way to God through Jesus. So he didn't completely shut that door to us, even though he had kind of, not him, but like humanity had kind of drifted away from him, right? So he brought us Jesus so that way we can find our way back to him through him. At least that's my understanding. I'm going to say that a lot because I don't want people to get the impression that I'm some kind of expert in this. I'm learning, and I'm learning publicly with you guys here. So feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm getting something wrong here. So what kind of impact? Oh, wait, I forgot some of this. So God is not waiting for you to climb up to him. God is the one who steps towards you. So God understands human weakness from the inside. So he understands what we're going through. He understands what we are. He understands our flaws. Um, and he still loves us enough, despite all of that, to send us Jesus so that we could find our way back to him. That's a loving God. Um, so what kind of impact could this have on us? Um, you don't have to be perfect to approach him. You can talk to him honestly because he knows what it feels like to be human, tired, tempted, lonely, rejected. So he understands us. He understands what we're going through. He understands what we're feeling. Um, and he sent Jesus to rescue us, really. Your life has meaning because the creator knows you. Um, and if you just even from a secular point of view, if you kind of look at that, what an impact it could have on you personally when another person validates your feelings, makes you feel loved, makes you feel important. I mean, you can see and feel how important that is, and how much that can change you. So knowing that God knows you this way as well, um, can give you a lot of meaning, a lot of, what's the right word that I'm looking for? A lot of motivation and drive, to do better and, be the best that you can be because God knows you, right? He knows your heart. If Jesus is the word who created all things, then you were made on purpose. And knowing that you were made on purpose can kind of change your whole entire outlook on life, right? Knowing that there's a reason why you're here, and trying to work towards figuring out what that reason is, what your purpose is, um, can change your entire outlook on life. And I can speak to that personally because, um, and please let me know, leave a comment, if you're watching this on the playback, if something that you want to know, more about me and you would like me to kind of do a more in-depth Q&A on my testimony and how I got to where I am right now, I will happily go through that. It is a very long story, and I did share some of that on the stream that I did on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. Yeah. So the stream I did on Tuesday, there's a little like 15-20 minute blurb where I talked about some of my testimony. But if that's something that you guys would be interested in, absolutely drop me a comment and let me know and I'll go through that. But knowing that I'm here for a purpose has really personally helped me, um, because there's a lot of beliefs that I hold that are part of that's the best way that I can word this that doesn't sound terrible. Um, I the US in particular is very polarized right now. And you're either on one side or the other for most people. And the president winning the election kind of made me spiral into kind of a pit of despair where I felt like, um nothing was going to go right. The world was falling apart. Things were going to get a lot harder. It was really disappointing because my family was just starting to get to a point where everything was good. Everything was looking up. Everything was looking very promising. And this new president comes in and he makes a lot of changes, and a lot of changes that make the life personally much harder for my own family. And in that spiral, I was going down into a depression. Um, and there were some times where I was sitting here going, what's the point? What's the point of all this? What's the point of fighting? What's the point of caring? What's the like, you know, it just felt I just felt despair. I felt a lot of despair. And that's kind of when I turned to going to church and Jesus to help me through that. And that's where my belief kind of sprang up from. So, this message that you were made for a purpose or you were made on purpose kind of lifted me up out of that despair because it's like, I'm here for a reason. What is it that I'm here for? It's giving me something to strive for. It's giving me something to focus on and be positive for because I want to help people. I want to serve. And I have kind of found my place in that in working at the church and finding ways to serve through the church. So like I found an avenue where I can go out and I can volunteer and I can serve in the church with the children's ministry. There's other teams that I'm on at church. So finding that purpose and knowing that Jesus has put me here for that purpose has kind of really helped lift me out of that depression and despair. So your life is not random or accidental. So again, striving to find what that purpose is that has for you. And the one that's made the universe cares about you personally. And there is something about the fact that this universe is so big. Like we can't even comprehend how big this universe is. And even if we just look at the earth and the size of us, the world is huge. So knowing that the creator of all of these things that are so big and so vast, but you are important enough as a single human being that God cares about you. He cares about you personally, um, is really impactful and can really make you feel like, yeah, I matter. I matter. I may not matter to some people on this planet, but at the end of the day, does that really matter? Because I matter to God. I matter to Jesus, right? So that can really, really be life changing, honestly. Um, did I have more notes? I thought I had more notes. No, I didn't. I must have misplaced them. Alrighty then. Okay, so then I'm just gonna, seeing as I misplaced the notes for the rest of my questions, and we're just gonna wing it because that's how we play. Um, so what does this chapter reveal about light and darkness? Um, well, the simple answer to that is that it tells us that Jesus is the light. He's the light of all things, the light of the world. He's the one that brought light to us and brought light to our lives. And I remember which which verse was it? It was when John was talking about how he's not the Messiah. Look, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. So John knew, and he was sharing that with everybody. And because he was sharing it, people thought that he was the Messiah. Um, where did he specifically talk about the light? I know I saw it. Which verse was it? I apologize if I'm fumbling here. I'm just looking for. Okay. Yeah, so he might be revealed to Israel. I read that part. Where the heck? I really liked this. Oh, by the way, I'm using the NIV version of the Bible. Um, so my church uses the NIV. My Bible that I have that I work with personally is the NLT. I like the NLT. It's easy for me to read, and it's the particular NLT version that I have is a study Bible. So half of the page is the actual Bible itself, and then there are like reader's notes for the other half. And that has been really, really useful to me because I have a million and one questions always about everything. So having a study Bible that answers a lot of those questions for me makes life just a little bit easier for me. Um, All right, maybe I just missed it completely. The Word became flesh, made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory and the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Oh, here we go. Duh. All right. So there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. So Jesus is I mean, I'm getting the impression from this that Jesus is also the light, like he embodies the light. John makes it clear that he is not the light, he is not Jesus, he's not the Messiah, but he only came as a witness to the light. Um, and my interpretation of that is he came to bear witness to others about Jesus so that they could also witness the light as well. Um, the true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. So he was coming, that to me says that Jesus was coming for everyone. He wasn't coming just for Israel and the chosen people. He was coming for he was coming to save everyone, and that everyone was going to have the opportunity to be saved through him. Which again just demonstrates a loving God, because he's not just saving his chosen people, he's giving um, everyone the opportunity to be saved through him. Uh, and then it says, how can you, like John the Baptist, point others to Jesus? So this one's a little personal for me, um, simply because I don't know quite yet how I can do that. Um, in real life, I'm a fairly shy, reserved person. I don't really, kind of make a spectacle of myself in person. And a lot of times I'm very quiet. And so the idea of testifying to other people and sharing the gospel is kind of really daunting to me. I have a hard enough time walking up to someone and starting a conversation about small talk. That's part of my neurodivergence, I suppose. I really struggle, and I'm really awkward in social situations. So I knew going into this, when I started going to church, that this was a message that was going to be shared. So it's really made me sit down and think about how I can share the gospel, and come out of that box that I've kind of put myself in, um, that's comfortable to actually share. And, after talking to Isaac yesterday and that whole drama fest, I um I was really inspired to share my story. And I was like, you know what? I want to, because I've been hanging on to this Bible study since September. And I hadn't really decided what I was going to do with it, whether I was just going to do it personally or whether I was going to do it online somewhere, like more in private. And and it's really funny. It's really, really funny that God is working through me the way that he is, because I really thought, you know what? It's time to do the Bible study. And I was worried about how that was gonna be received, because I'm not a teacher. I don't claim to be a scholar or a teacher, so I was a little worried about how it was gonna be received that such a brand new Christian would be coming on here and hosting a Bible study. So that's kind of why I have reiterated a couple of times in this stream that I am not a teacher, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an expert. So please correct me if I'm wrong. And I will continue to say that, because I am still learning, but this is a way that I can kind of learn with my audience, right? I want people to be comfortable to come in and talk to me about it and share their points of view and share um, their thoughts on the particular verses that we're going through. So that's something that I really like about the Bible study that I do through my church. is that there's a big group of us. We all sit around in our pastor's living room every Wednesday night, and we'll read the verse together. And then the pastor will ask a question, and we all just kind of give our input on how we interpret that verse or what that verse might mean to us. Or, you know, he may share a quote and be like, well, what does that mean? Or what do you think that means? Or where do you think this is going? And I kind of wanted to transfer that into my online community as well, and just kind of bounce ideas off of other Christians and see, how they feel about it. And in the process, I can learn more myself, which I love doing. So I have 21 sessions of these really basic um, Bible studies. So if this is something that you're interested in joining with me, we'll do this again in the future. Uh, I have the StreamYard link up. I'm looking at maybe doing these maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on kind of what my schedule looks like. Right now, life is extremely crazy and busy. I wanted to do this Bible study last night, but unfortunately, I was just by the time I got home, um, I was I was beat. Like, I was in bed and asleep by 10 o'clock last night. I took my little to the library in Gettysburg, and we were doing activities, so we didn't get home until later. And then, just running around and doing regular wife and mom stuff at the end of the day. Um, I was just, by the time I got to actually sit down, I was so exhausted. I was like, I can't do it tonight. Um, so, with life being as busy and hectic as it is, I will try and do these if they're well received and people want to participate and enjoy them enough, then yeah, I'll keep doing them. I mean, and as I go, I'm learning more. And, in the future, I can maybe share things that we talk about in my church's Bible study and things like that. Um, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope that people will be inspired to participate and join me and share their point of view. Um, you know, I know, I know Smokey probably won't. I would love him to join in the future, simply because Smokey has been doing this for so long, and I know that if I have questions or I get something wrong, I know he's going to correct me. I know that he can answer my questions. Um, and I mean, like, there's other folks that can do that absolutely as well. Um, but because I've built a friendship with Smokey and Smokey's crew, um, I feel like you have to trust people to a certain extent to be comfortable enough to go to them to ask the hard questions that you may have. And some of the questions that I have, I can't go up, and I don't feel like I can ask a random person. It's got to be somebody that I've built some kind of relationship with, to the point where I'm comfortable enough with you to say, hey, can we sit down and talk about this? Or I have some questions. Do you mind answering them for me? So there is going to be a lot of that. But I appreciate you. If you've been here and you're watching, thank you so much for joining. And Good Whitney, thank you for a Good Wit. Is it Good Wit or Good Whitney? I don't want to mess up your name. I heard Dave call you Good Whitney, so I assumed it was Good Whitney. But thank you for being here. I appreciate you all. You're all amazing. Oh, thank you, husband. I appreciate you. My name is Whitney. Okay, wonderful. Nice to meet you, Whitney. I'm Mindy. So thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you being here. Um, and yeah, I hope you guys all have a great night. God bless. And I will keep you in my prayers. Have a good night.